The cameraman. Today is Thursday, October 13, 2016, and I have a guest with me, Astronomy Live, and we're looking at Nibiru Planet X, the video they don't want you to see. Now, this channel, Nibiru Planet X 2016, has uploaded a video, and Steve Olson, WSO Steve Olson, has also been on board with us, posting a video claiming to show a large planet passing through our solar system and crossing over in front of the Sun. What could this object be? Is it Nibiru? Is it Planet X? Or is there a much more ordinary explanation? So I'm going to hand over now to Astronomy Live, who's been looking into this. Go ahead.
Thanks, Asa. So first, let me just play some other video in here, and let's see what he says.
In the center depicts the size of the Sun. If you compare the size of the Sun to the size of that planet, it's pretty big. Named the planet. They named the planet Enoch. I wonder where they picked up that name Enoch. The planet moves very, very rapidly. And they've been imaging and watching this planet for almost 10 years.
Okay, so I think that's enough of that silliness for the moment. Let's take a look also at WSO. Right here, he had a video on this a day before. The other channel was this Nibiru Planet X channel 2016, and they also discussed this.
If this is our okay, you got a real problem with just the elliptical orbit of this, because here's the problem, Steve. This is going in front of the Sun.
Okay, so if you heard what he said there, it got a little hard to hear in the audio, but he said, if this is the moon, you've got a real problem there. Well, let's see if we have a real problem. So what I did is I looked at the trajectory of stereo behind as it left the Earth-Moon system in 2007, and took a look at what it should be seeing as it was facing the Sun. So in one of my previous videos, which I'm sure will go into the video description here, I took a look at that trajectory at images that were shot in the extreme UV of the Sun directly, and we saw an object transiting the Sun. This is from that same time period in February 2007. And so here again are the images straight from the Stereo Behind website, or the Stereo spacecraft website, showing the images from Stereo Behind in Core 2. These are at 3-hour intervals, and you can see the object going behind the occulter and then coming out the other side and going away. And it takes about a week for that process to occur. So looking from ORSA, this is, hang on a second. This is with ORSA. And once the UI goes away here, you'll see the dates listed up here in the top left corner. The white outline is the outline of the field of view of Core 2. And it's just a simulated outline here showing where the field of view would cut off. So at the beginning of the video, the moon enters the view, and then it follows that same path we just saw. Okay, now one more thing again, I do want to reiterate that I was able to get the images off the Stereo website, and you can get them right now. They're up there. So here are the images playing in a loop on the Stereo website, and they're not being hidden, they're fully available, and you can see this whole process playing out. Now what I did is I took the images at 3-hour intervals from the Stereo website and overlaid them on top of the ORSA images. Now the ORSA frames were shot at, or rendered at half-hour intervals. So I simulated the trajectory of the Stereo spacecraft in 30-minute intervals, and that's what each frame represents. So it's a little choppier in terms of the stereo footage, but you can see what that object really is, and it matches up perfectly with the moon's position as it comes into the view here. So you can see that's clearly the moon. It's the same size the moon is supposed to be, and it's where the moon is supposed to be. It goes behind the occulter, comes out the other side, and then leaves the field of view. So it's exactly as expected. So what do you think of that, Asa?
Well, it seems pretty conclusive to me, and also the fact that you had already posted a video previously. When did you post that earlier video looking at this?
Let me see here. That was a little while ago, a few days. So, 2 weeks ago.
Sorry, you're fading out there.
I'm sorry about that. Posted it September 25th.
September 25th of this year, so we're talking about last month.
Yeah, I posted that September 25th. That was focused specifically on the extreme UV images of the sun itself.
Right. Now, your audio is not coming through too loud, so if you're able to get closer to the microphone, that might help.
Okay, I should. Oh, is it not? Is it working now? It's not working
yes,
now.
Yes.
Oh, it is? Okay, good.
Okay, so you uploaded a video in September, late September, and these images are from 2007, which was when the stereo behind spacecraft was actually leaving the Earth-Moon system on its way out into its orbit around the sun. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. So if I pull up that video, let me just browse over here. Actually, I can just copy the link from the other page here. 1 second. I'll just copy that video over here so that you can see it. There we go. Sorry, I just had to change the audio settings so that the audio from this video won't blare over our webcast here. But so here's the video I did before. Towards the end of the video, I showed the images from Orsa, so you can actually take a look at that trajectory as it's leaving the Earth-Moon system. Here we go. So it had a close encounter with the Moon itself, which gave it a gravity assist to get it away from Earth, and then stereo behind goes out into the distance. Now, up in the top left corner again, you'll see the dates there. It's just gone into February, and the Moon goes all the way around Earth once more before it crosses in front of the sun from stereo behind's perspective. Now, of course, this is an overhead view relative to the ecliptic, not the view from stereo behind directly, but you can see how it was leaving the Earth-Moon system there, and it was, it was pretty far from Earth and the Moon at the time this occurred. So right about here is where that transit occurs. And then finally, you can see the orbit there suddenly switched as stereo behind went into the sun's influence as it's broken free of Earth. And there's the view up close through the extreme ultraviolet images of the sun, and you can see the Moon transiting there. And it matches once again with what we see in Orsa. And so, it's important to keep in mind that Orsa is more advanced as a program than some of the Java applets you'll find online. It actually does take into account the gravity of the Earth and the planets on the spacecraft, which is very important in this case because the spacecraft did have a close approach to the Moon, and so its orbit was significantly affected by that. So you really do have to account for that if you want to accurately predict what it should see from its perspective.
Right, now, if we can just go back to the opening images on Nibiru Planet X 2016's video, just take a look at that and the statements made.
Okay. Do you want me to play the audio on this too?
No, we'll just have a look at that to start with.
Okay.
So the title is Nibiru Planet X, the video footage.
Yeah, the video footage that NASA doesn't want you to see.
Right, and there it is for all to see on the Stereo website. Now, if you can just step ahead in the video so we can skip through the music at the start there, and just play the segment where we actually see the image of this mysterious object passing in front of the sun. Let's take a look at that scene.
Okay. Let's see. Do you want the Core 2 images or the Core 1 images?
This one will do. Okay, so the interesting thing that we notice here is that even though we can see this this object passing across in front of the sun, what is it that we don't see on this image that should be fairly glaringly obvious if we're trying to work out what this object is?
Right, so he's clicked off the header on what spacecraft is showing these images on the top, and of course the date and time down at the bottom.
Now, why would he do that, I wonder? Because the images are you know, they're available for all to see. If you've got the date and the time, and you know which spacecraft and camera to look for, you can go online to the stereo archives and download these images, just as you and I have done. So doesn't it seem rather mysterious that he would clip the top and bottom of the image exactly where the date and time and name of the spacecraft and camera is?
Yeah, that is rather curious. And you know, we were looking at these images, not specifically these images, but this time frame from this spacecraft just last month with the extreme ultraviolet images. And you know, there was a lot of discussion about that back then, and I made a video directly responding to WSO's video, which proclaimed that to be an unusual circumstance. And actually, if you look back at WSO's video from September, he talked about these images having been from the SDO spacecraft. He suggested that these images, particularly the extreme ultraviolet images, were actually coming from SDO, which didn't even launch until 2010. And so I made a video correcting him on that and showing that this was indeed the moon transiting as expected from stereo behind's perspective. And now he's seemingly switched to admitting that it's stereo. On WSO's site, you know, he admits that this comes from stereo behind, or at least he shows that, but he still doesn't show the date and time at the bottom. He mentions in passing, they mention in passing in their webcast that these images come from 2007. But for whatever reason, he's decided not to tell you in direct terms that this is exactly the same event that he showed last month, just from different cameras.
Right, so let's go back over to the stereo archive page. Let's have a look at that and just confirm that these images are indeed available for anybody who wants to go to that website, and we can put a link in the description area, and these images are there.
Yes, they are. And so you can see, hopefully you can see them playing right now in sequence. And you know, if you want to download, you can download the entire sequence right here with this download all button. You can also seek out the individual still images if you're so inclined. They have those available in these directories. I just like to just manually browse. Sometimes I'll change the date up here. You can change this to the 21st to advance it to the next day, so on and so forth. And then you can just click on each image and get the full resolution still frames. So they're all available up there. They're not being obscured or deleted or hidden. And you know, that's anyone can get to it. It's not a difficult process at all.
Right, so now this video, Nibiru Planet X 2016, the video footage they don't want you to see, or NASA doesn't want you to see. This was first brought to my attention on my Dazza the Cameraman Facebook page. Somebody posted the video there and asked about it. I went over to the video and I took a look. The first thing I noticed was how the date and time and spacecraft details were conveniently cropped out of the image. And I posted a comment asking why these details had been omitted. I posted a few more comments, and surprise, surprise, Dazza the Cameraman has been banned from commenting any further. So my comments cannot be seen publicly, only I can see them. And I think you've had a similar sort of experience, haven't you?
Absolutely. Now, I haven't posted any comments on this channel yet. I'm sure once I do, you know, once I start commenting and explaining this, I'll be quickly removed as well. I have been banned by WSO. They've banned me from commenting, and I was just scrolling down the comments here, Dazza, and as everyone can see, your comments are nowhere to be seen. And I know you commented at least, you know, by around this point in the thread. I saw your comments here before, and now they're just gone. And I've been similarly banned by Steve Olson from commenting on his videos, even though he invited me to appear on his show on a couple of occasions. He said that I was welcome to come on to his show. Well, I might be welcome to come on to his show according to him, but I can't make any comments on his video accepting that invitation. And when I accepted that invitation by email, he stipulated certain rules that I was not entirely comfortable with. Specifically, it wasn't so much of a debate as it was an opportunity for him to respond to anything I said. The format was such that I was required to make a statement on each of the points that were going to be laid out ahead of the debate, and then he would respond to those statements. And then we would move on to the next point with no chance for me to rebuttal. So that's not really a debate, that's a one-way conversation.
Right, and this seems to be an interesting pattern that we see time and time again, isn't it? That the so-called truthers seem to be the very worst offenders when it comes to censorship and suppression of the truth. When astronomers, as you and I, try and get out there and set the record straight about what we're seeing in these videos, Our comments are deleted, we're banned so that we cannot comment publicly, and the truth is suppressed, and these people are calling themselves truthers.
Yeah, it's rather interesting, and they'll even ignore their own statements where needed to basically keep pushing the line that they're pushing. So, for example, last month they were talking a lot about the SDO eclipse season as that was wrapping up, and I did a prediction video successfully predicting the final partial solar eclipse that the SDO spacecraft would see due to the moon passing in front of the sun. And they were going on about this for some time, and one of the things that they said in their videos, they kept using the line observation is king, and they were very big about doing the math, about actually showing the calculations of these things, and they were trying to show calculations explaining why it couldn't possibly be due to SDO's orbit around the Earth. Well, I did the actual math on that, did the orbital calculations for SDO using observations that I conducted myself. They admitted in their own videos, their own videos, that they hadn't observed the spacecraft themselves, and they were just going off of the official published orbit. And so they said even then it was all theoretical, and that they basically didn't hold that in terribly high regard because, of course, the information about the orbit came from NASA. Well, I calculated the orbit myself using my own observations of the spacecraft, and then using that orbit, calculated the final solar eclipse and predicted it successfully. Nothing from them. Absolute silence, even though that was what they said was the gold standard. And amusingly, in one of their own videos, they basically laid that down as the goalpost for having something significant to talk about. They said, okay, if you do the math, if you do actually conduct observations and do the math like this, then we've got something to talk about. Otherwise, you're just a troll. Well, I met that goalpost, and mysteriously, there's no response. I'm not surprised by this terribly, but it's kind of interesting to see the hypocrisy anyway.
Right, so let's just go back to that video again by Nibiru Planet X 2016. Take a final look at the front page of that. Okay, I was just waiting for that to come up in the main screen there. I wasn't seeing it. I think it's fair to say that the object in this video is absolutely positively identified as the moon. It was no great secret that it was the moon. Just to recap on what we said earlier, this was going back to 2007 when Stereo Behind was launched from Earth, and it was leaving the Earth moon system. So the moon was seen in the foreground as the satellite, as the spacecraft was heading out on its orbit towards the sun. You can confirm that, Astronomy Live?
Absolutely. And I think it's important to keep in mind, because I'm sure this will be somewhat confusing to some people. They'll probably be wondering, okay, why is it moving like this? Why does it have this arcing path up from the bottom right of the image up to the mid left and then back out to the right again? Well, you have to keep in mind that two things are moving here, the spacecraft and the moon. And the spacecraft is headed out away from the Earth-Moon system, and it's moving not perfectly in line with the ecliptic. And it's definitely not moving perfectly in line with the moon's orbit. And so you have to take those complicated motions into account, and that's exactly what ORSA does. It takes all those motions into account. It even takes into account the gravity of the moon on the spacecraft, which is important. And when you do all that and you load that into ORSA, you find that the predicted path the moon would take, as seen from Stereo Behind, matches exactly what we see in these images.
Right. So here is the video, the footage that NASA does not want you to see by Nibiru Planet X 2016, and also the similar videos by WSO Steve Olson on their channels. Now, this is an open invitation to Nibiru Planet X 2016 and Steve Olson and Wayne Steiger. Most welcome to join us for a live YouTube hangout where we can discuss your claims about Nibiru Planet X and any other such claims that we've covered in these recent videos. We'll be pleased to host you on a hangout where there will be an open, balanced, and respectful discussion where we can get the real truth out there and not engage in censorship and suppression of the truth by deleting comments and banning people from participating. That is transparency, and for anybody who is interested in the truth, they should have no fear in participating in such an open and balanced discussion. Astronomy Live, I'd like to thank you for your work on this and for joining me, and We plan to upload some shorter summary videos so that people can watch a condensed version of the video. So you can look forward to a further analysis from Astronomy Live. He'll be uploading that on his channel. You can find Astronomy Live on YouTube, and you'll find a link in the description area under this video. Thank you for watching. Astronomy Live.
Thank you for having me on, Daza. Yeah, this has been great. I'll have the video up soon.
Thank you, and with that, we'll close out. Hello YouTube, this is Daza the cameraman. Today is Thursday, October 13, 2016, and I have a guest with me, Astronomy Live, and we're looking at Nibiru Planet X, the video they don't want you to see. Now, this channel, Nibiru Planet X 2016, has uploaded a video, and Steve Olson, WSO Steve Olson, has also been on board with us, posting a video claiming to show a large planet passing through our solar system and crossing over in front of the sun. What could this object be? Is it Nibiru? Is it Planet X? Or is there a much more ordinary explanation? So I'm going to hand over now to Astronomy Live, who's been looking into this. Go ahead.
Thanks, Daza. So first, let me just play some other video in here, and let's see what he says.
In the center depicts the size of the sun. If you compare the size of the sun to the size of that planet, it's pretty big. Named the planet. They named the planet Enoch. I wonder where they picked up that name Enoch. The planet moves very, very rapidly. And they've been imaging and watching this planet for almost 10 years.
Okay, so I think that's enough of that silliness for the moment. Let's take a look also at WSO briefly here. He had a video on this a day before. The other channel was this Nibiru Planet X channel 2016, and they also discussed this.
If this is our okay, you got a real problem with just the elliptical orbit of this, because here's the problem, Steve. This is going in front of the sun.
Okay, so if you heard what he said there, it got a little hard to hear in the audio, but he said, if this is the moon, you've got a real problem there. Well, let's see if we have a real problem. So what I did is I looked at the trajectory of stereo behind as it left the Earth-Moon system in 2007, and took a look at what it should be seeing as it was facing the sun. So in one of my previous videos, which I'm sure will go into the video description here, I took a look at that trajectory at images that were shot in the extreme UV of the sun directly, and we saw an object transiting the sun. This is from that same time period in February 2007. And so here again are the images straight from the Stereo Behind website, or the Stereo spacecraft website, showing the images from Stereo Behind in Core 2. These are at 3-hour intervals, and you can see the object going behind the occulter and then coming out the other side and going away. And it takes about a week for that process.